infinite complacence. People went to and fro the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
So essentially, I live in Columbus now, but I think it was about 2008. I moved up to, at the time, I graduated from Kent State, but I moved to Cleveland in 2008 for work. And I moved into this apartment. It was in Coventry, which is a neighborhood. It's like by Little Italy in Cleveland. But anyway, so I'd been there for probably a couple months or so. But it was an older building. It had a kind of funny setup. There was 2 bedrooms in the back of the building. It was kind of a shotgun kind of style apartment. There was 2 bedrooms in the back, the bathroom, and then there was this long hallway that was like just a regular hallway, but it was probably 20 feet long, 25 feet long. I mean, it was kind of a distance. I used to jump on my skateboard and go the whole distance. So it was kind of a little bit of a ways. But in the middle of that, it was the kitchen. So it was just this doorway, or just this doorway there. Mm-hmm. This is important to the story. But anyway, so it's that, and then it goes into the living room, the dining room. So one night I wake up, and again, I'd been there a couple months. I woke up, I opened my bedroom door, and I'm looking down the hallway, and I didn't have the light on or anything. And I'm kind of just looking down the hallway, and then I kind of see something, but I'm as my eyes focused where the light would come in from the kitchen, because there was a light, a street light outside of the kitchen window. So the light would come in through the kitchen and through that doorway. But as I'm standing there, I'm looking down the hallway, and I'm thinking, and then all of a sudden it just sort of occurs to me, there's someone standing there. And the best way I can describe it is, it was the top half of a person. And I know that sounds really strange, but it was, just the top half of a person, but they were standing in that light. And as I'm looking at it, it was, this is going to sound so weird, but I immediately knew what I was looking at. It wasn't I'm looking at someone in my apartment, or somebody got in my house or something like that, because I even I live on the first floor. So right out of my porch, there was a bus stop. So I mean, in theory, someone could have kind of climbed up in there or whatever. So anyway, as I'm looking at this thing, it occurs to me what it is immediately, when my eyes focus. And I turn to my left to go into the bathroom, and I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, what is this? I was what did I just see? What is that? My mind is racing. And then I noticed that I was whistling, which I'm not a whistler. I don't whistle tunes, but I was whistling this tune, and and then it occurred to me that I was doing that, and I'm what am I whistling? What is going on here? You know what I mean? So I eventually kind of gathered myself, and I, quickly made it back into my bedroom. And then I'd lived there for, I think, throughout the lease or whatever. And there was times where I would feel this kind of I don't know how to explain it, this sort of rush of anxiety or energy. When I'd be walking down the thing, I always felt this weird sort of presence, or I don't really know how to describe it. So then if you I'd moved out of there or whatever. And a couple years later, I was telling somebody that story. I was telling them about it. And they were you know what you should do? You should contact the people who live there and see if anything weird has happened there. So I made up an email address, I made one up, or a throwaway email. And I wrote them a letter to that address. So I sent a letter to the address, and I was like, and I typed it out or whatever. And then it was like saying something along the lines of like, I used to live in this apartment. I kind of made up this background because you never know who you're contacting. It could be like a weirdo. You never know. And I was like, I used to live there and whatever. And I was like, I'm just curious if you ever experienced anything weird going on there. And I was like, if you haven't, disregard this letter, but otherwise, here's this email address. And within I mailed it, and within a few days, I got an email from the person, and they said, it was just a couple sentences. I don't remember exactly what it said, but it said something like, we received your letter. We know exactly what you're talking about. Please call me. And it had a number there. However, in that time, I kind of got nervous, and I was like, but I ended up forgetting I didn't end up calling them back, but I ended up forgetting the password and the username to that throwaway email. So I never actually followed up on it.
So this half of a person, what kind of body build did this thing have on the top half anyway?
So it was slim. It was like, so I can picture it in my head. I've actually drawn it out before, but it was like very slender, if that makes sense. Like it was just I don't know, just like a slender person, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, because I could see the head, and then it was like on, I guess where the light was, I don't know how to explain this, but like there was like less torso where there was more light, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was like like head, shoulders, both arms, and I would say like on when I'm looking at it, my left side was sort of higher up, and then on the other side was down lower. I know that sounds bizarre, but that's what it looked like to me. I don't know.
And it was pitch black, or did it have clothes on?
No, it was just black. It was like a black. I didn't see any clothes. I didn't see anything that was like, I would have thought of as, like ruffles or like folds
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that on the side of like, like sleeves or anything like that. It was just this figure there. And like I said, like it wasn't one of these things like in the middle of the night, I'm not thinking like now where I live, like if I ever hear something creaks in that, my first inclination is, oh, it's somebody, or you know what I mean? But when I saw this and my eyes focused, it was like I immediately knew what I was looking at, and I knew it wasn't a person. I don't know how to, I know that sounds really weird. Yeah, I don't know. That was the feeling I got.
And no facial features detected whatsoever.
No, It was just solid black. I don't know how. Yeah. It just looked like, like it was just black, just standing in that light there.
That is pretty cool that you reached out to those folks and they're like, yeah, we do actually know what you're talking about, so call us.
Right.
As far as the building itself, and I've been in that area, as you know, I used to live up in the Cleveland area in Westlake and go into Cleveland quite a bit. That Little Italy area is really cool down around there. And it does seem like a lot of the buildings, they do have some history. They're older buildings. So do you have any background on that specific building? Did you ever come across a newspaper article of anything or anybody else talking about that building or that area?
No. Well, so I tried looking that building up at the time. And this was like, it's 2008. I guess I had a hard time kind of finding that or anything about it. And I know that there was another podcast where they used to mention this. There was like a site that you can go to. I think you have to pay to see if anyone had died, like in your building or in your house or whatever else. And I don't remember. I think I looked at that, but I didn't want to pay at the time or something. But I know, so that area there, I know, and like I lived in Little Italy too, actually, that I did. But I know that there was like there's a cemetery that's really close to there. If you're familiar with the Cleveland area, like Elliot Ness is buried there, and it's a huge cemetery. But that's why Little Italy is there, because I guess my understanding was that, a lot of like the stonemasons and the people who like dealt with all that kind of stuff moved there for that, like from Italy to cater to the needs of that cemetery or whatever. So I feel like that whole area there is old, and they're kind of like, the building that I lived in, if this makes sense to you, or but it's where there's Coventry Road, and I think is it Mayfield and Coventry, I think. It's right there, but it's the second tenant building. There are these big there's 3 big apartment buildings, and they're old. Like in the inside of that, to give you an idea, like on the first floor when you'd walk in, there was fresco type paintings of it sounds funny, but like topless mermaids. You know, it was all like 3-dimensional. You know, I think at one time that building was really nice.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like 50 years, well, probably longer than that now, but it was a really nice apartment building. But now, just over time, it's not like that. You know what I mean? I mean, not that it was a dump, but it was like, you know what I mean? It's just old. But no, I guess my long-winded answer is I haven't personally heard anything like that of that area. But again, like, I mean, it's been around for forever. So, I mean, I could send you the address, I guess, if you'd want it. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be kind of cool to look that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like it was something closer to the ghost of a passed on human being, or that it was something else?
You know, I've thought about that, and I don't know, because there was like, I just felt, I don't know how to explain this without just there. When I lived in that place, there was a lot of like I felt like I was sort of, I don't want to use the word like depressed, but I know, okay, just straight up, like I don't know, it just felt like things, like I was in this sort of, well, maybe it was depression, I don't know. Like I wasn't personally depressed, but it was just a lot of things. It just felt sort of, I don't know, dim or dark, I don't know. But I never got the feeling that it was a person. I don't really know how to answer that. Like, I don't know.
No,
Sorry
that's
if I'm
okay.
rambling.
No. I mean, yeah, it's not no fault of yours, because nobody's really got the answers. I just didn't know because it is interesting that right off the bat, even though you're on the first floor, you knew it wasn't like a living person. You know, that got crossed off pretty quickly. So I just didn't know if you had any feelings either way about it. But no apologies needed.
Yeah.
And now you didn't see anything besides that one time, right?
No, nothing else. I had never seen anything. That was the only time I saw anything. But however, after I started doing that, or after that night, there was these big, I would keep that hall light on every night. Like I would never go to bed without that light on, that hall light. I also had a girlfriend at the time, so I would stay at her house a lot. So
because of that?
But when yeah, it was like I didn't like staying there. I know I'm trying to describe how it just felt weird being there. I mean, obviously you see something like that, you're going to be like, oh, this is, I don't want to be here. But it just felt like there was, I don't know how to, it was just like, I felt like I was always just sort of in the dumps, sort of.
Just had a heavy feeling about it.
Yeah, like I always just felt like I was not in a good place when I was there. And I mean, there'd be times where I don't know, it just felt like, I don't know, or I can put it this way. When I moved out of there, I remember thinking to myself, I will never go back to Cleveland. Like that, it was just such this like weight lifted off my chest getting out of that place. I know, it just never felt good.
So that tainted all of Cleveland for you, kind of, in a way. I mean, that's how much it affected you?
Yeah. I mean, it was just, I feel like being there, it was just, I mean, yeah. I mean, I haven't gone back since I moved. I mean, I've been back a couple of times, but no, I would never live up there. It was just a very, I don't know. I just feel like the person I am now and the person I, was then, and just that kind of, I just wouldn't know. So.
Did you tell your girlfriend about the sighting?
I think so. I don't recall our conversation, but I would have told her that stuff. Yeah.
Did she ever stay the night over there?
You know what? She only stayed the night over there out from what I can remember, like one time. And that was right when we first started dating. I hadn't lived there that long. So.
And that was maybe even before you saw the shadow figure or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I never saw anything, but there'd be times when I'd be walking through the hallway, but I'd be coming from the dining room, and the living room was like kind of up front. So I'd have to walk down that hallway each night, but I would have this sort of, I don't know, this feeling of like this welling up all of a sudden. Like it would feel like when I'd be walking down it, like going to bed, like going, it it would just feel like this sort of like sensation of, I don't know if anxiety is the right term, but it's almost like that nervous excitement all of a sudden. But I would feel that a lot. Like it would just be this feeling, you know? Yeah.
How long did you live there in total?
I was there. I had a year lease, so I was there for a year.
Gosh, I wonder what those other people wanted to talk to you about.
Oh, me too. Yeah, and I mean, you know, even since then, I've considered doing something similar. But I mean, but then I thought too, I'm like, if I received a letter in the mail that was said something similar, like where I live now, I'd be like,
Right.
what? You know, I don't want to like totally creep somebody out, but I can't. The thing, I mean, if I experience that, I mean, and honestly, when it comes to anything like that or like peculiar, you know, in the world, that's the only thing that's ever happened to me like that. And I mean, and the thing is, it was so real when I sent that letter to those people. I'm like, I 100% believe them. I'm like, there's something, I don't know what they experienced or what happened, but I know something happened to me there. So, you know, I 100% believe them. So, and maybe it would even be something I wrote to, you know, send them, be like validation for them too. Like I'm not nuts.
Well, they did get right back to you.
Yeah, within days. So yeah, maybe I can do it again. Maybe.
Worth a shot. I mean, let's face it. Some of these things seem to be timeless. So, you know, a few years or even more decades doesn't seem to make a difference to these things. If they're there, they're usually just there, you know. Did it move at all?
No, it just, like I said, it was just, I got the feeling that it was facing me. I mean, I've never thought about that until right now, but it felt like it was just facing me. It didn't move. But it also too is, I don't know. I know I feel like I sound like a kook when I'm saying this, but it's almost like I got the feeling that it was sort of okay or wanted me to see it, if that makes sense. Because like like I said, when I woke up in my eyes, I was, you know, I just woken up, so I'm like, you know, but once they focused, it was like right there, and it was just, I mean, clear as day. That figure, it was crazy. So.
See, it's those one-off things. That's just like my experience. Just the one time I saw the shadow figures and never again. And of course, that's different because mine was outdoors, just in a random, you know, lot that somebody probably has a cabin on now, and I think they do. Whereas yours was in your home at the time. But why just the one time for you?
I have no idea. I mean, the thing is like that is sort of my. I don't know. I'm always, I don't want to say like looking, but like all things like that. Like I feel like I'm always looking up at the sky, you know, or I'm interested in these kinds of things, I guess now, but like, you know, it's one of these things where I don't like seek anything out like that, but I'm always kind of like, you know, I mean, I've taken my walks through graveyards and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, or there was times when I lived up in Cleveland, especially my girlfriend and I at the time, you know, we would go to a few places kind of like seeking things out, but I've never seen anything like that or anything again. However, when I think back, like it's sort of that grounding event for me where I'm like, I know this is real, or like, I know there's something going on. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going out in vain. Or when I have like friends kind of give me a hard time about something or some of my interests or stuff, or like if I talk about, you know, certain things, it's like, okay, but I experienced something. So I know there's something there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's a good confirmation experience for you. I felt the same about mine. I still do.
Yeah. That's what it feels like. Whenever I kind of think about that stuff, or I start to be like, well, maybe it's this, or, you know, or like kind of like trying to like, I don't want to say rationalize it, but like kind of force it into a box or something. But then I like think back on that and I'm like, well, I mean, there was something happened. Like, and there was just the whistling thing, which is just such an odd thing for me that, you know, and it's just, there was just too many weird things like that. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. The whistling thing, I definitely wanted to touch on, because do you think it was just almost like an automatic response from you because it was really at the base of it terrifying? I mean, what do you make of the whistling?
I don't know. And it's like, I've experienced real fear. And I've never had a reaction like that. That's like why I don't want to say, I don't want to paint it with a broad brush and say it was like something with the apartment or it was something like that. But I definitely, it felt like I was influenced in some way. I don't know how that would be or how that works. But when I was in there, because when I realized what I was seeing, I immediately was, oh my God. And I just kind of immediately walked into the bathroom. I didn't even notice that I was whistling at first. I was in my head, I'm thinking like, what did I just see? Like, oh my God, like what is going on? Like, that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, why am I whistling? But I was whistling like a tune. So it wasn't like me just, making noises or whatever. I was whistling something, and that's not something I do. I've never done that.
Do you remember exactly what it was you were whistling?
I don't recall what I was whistling. I don't know, but no, it was a tune. Like I was whistling something. It felt, you know what I mean? It was so bizarre. Yeah, I don't know what I can't recall, and I don't even think at the time like I remembered what I was whistling. You know what I mean?
So you walk into the bathroom, and it was still standing there when you turned your back and went into the bathroom?
Yeah.
And then how long were you in the bathroom for?
I honestly can't recall. I know it's like when I like gathered myself enough to go back into my room. I do recall making an effort not to look down the hallway. You know what I mean? Because I think in my head I'm like, don't look at it. Don't look, you know what I mean? Like, don't look down that direction. So I made a point not to do that. But no, I don't recall how long I was in there. I mean, it could have been a long time. It could have been a short time. I really don't know.
But the whole time that you're in there, you're going, oh crap, oh God, what is that? I mean, you must have been like, I just want to stay in here forever, or until at least daylight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that. But so also, I guess I should have said this before, but like, the way that apartment was, there was no real natural light in it, which is important for me. But like the bathroom, the window was painted over like a million times, so it only opened a crack. And right outside of it was another building, the building right next door.
Right.
So there was no there. There was like, come to think of it, like the kitchen that kitchen window, because there's a street light out there, it would come in, but like, it wouldn't have mattered if it was daytime or nighttime. You know what I mean?
Just a dark
place.
It
was always dark. And again, that was another part where it just felt like this sort of, not oppressive, but just this like, feeling in there where it was always dark. There was no natural light in there. So it kind of just added to that.
And then when you came out of the bathroom, it was completely gone.
I don't know. I didn't look down there.
Oh, you didn't even look down there. You just, so you just headed back to your bedroom?
Yeah, so it was because it was like the bathroom was just, you'd walk out of the bedroom and it was right to the left. So there was a doorway right there. I just went right. I just made it, like, I just didn't want to, see it again. Because it's, again, I like with the whole whistling thing and then I was just scared. And I think maybe, if I saw something like that now, I would be thinking like, I don't want to provoke it, or I don't want, or I don't know what's going on. So I don't know. Am I going to sort of escalate the situation, or is it going to, if I'm going to look down there and I just don't know. I just remember going, once I collected myself enough, I was like, just get back in your bedroom. So that's what I did.
Who could blame you though, really? I mean, seeing half of a torso of whatever the heck that thing was, slightly unsettling. And I'll say it again. When it's in your house, it is a completely different situation than going and, out on an investigation and you come across that, because you get to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 100%. And I mean, again, it's like one of these things. Then when I lived there, I don't want to say that I was always thinking about when I was there, but when I'd be going to bed, it would be something that would cross my mind every time, or like when I would get up to go to the bathroom. I remember I would have that light on, in the hallway, so it was all lit up, but I was still nervous to look down the hallway. Like, I didn't want to look down there because I didn't want it to like see it again, or not know what was going on, or so.
Well, and for it to affect you enough to decide to then forever, until you moved out, you kept the light on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I kept like after that night, that hallway light on stayed on the whole time, or like every night.
What would you do if you had bought the place? If you owned it, would you suck it up, or would you say no? I'm gonna even if I have losses, I'm gonna take them and run.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd probably honestly, I'd probably move out. I think I would leave. I think like where I'm at now. I think if I saw something like that, yeah, I would leave 100%.
Well, because let's be honest, it's not just the sighting; it's the way the place made you feel too, right?
Yeah. So it's all like there was times where I just felt, I don't know how to explain it, but I would just go down these just sort of not, I don't know, I don't want to say not liking who I was, but like I just remember finding myself, I rarely drink, but I remember at that time like it was something that was sort of like around a lot more, or I was just in I was just in a sad place all the time when I would be there. Like if I spent too much time by myself there, I would just get in this weird funk. And I'm not joking. Like when I moved out, I haven't been like that. I don't have, you know what I mean? Like that's not who I am. So it was this very like, when I think about it, I look back on Cleveland, like because I lived there for a couple of years or whatever, I just think, I don't know, it was like an experience, I guess in hindsight, I'm glad I had, just like any life experience, but it's not something I would ever want to experience again.
Right. You don't want to see that homie like standing in your hallway at the place that you're at and now in Columbus.
Right.
Okay.
It's also too, is what I was going to say before, is when you think about like a haunting or whatever it is, I mean, there's kind of like playful things. There can be jovial, this or that, or like little weird things. But seeing something like that, like if I saw a figure that wasn't even a person, it's not even like that, where it could be like, okay, maybe it's just somebody who lived here, or maybe this was a fond place of there could be a myriad of things. What that to me, I never got the feeling. I never got that feeling where it was, oh, maybe it's just somebody, maybe it's just this. It felt like unwell, if that makes sense. Like I didn't get a good feeling from it. So that's why also too, like if I were to see something like that here, where I live now, I would be out. If I saw maybe something that maybe isn't as ominous feeling, I don't know, maybe I could deal with it, or kind of like, it's just this thing, you know what I mean? But
Russell, what about any nightmares or dreams, strange dreams? Did you have any of that while you were living there?
I can't remember any. I don't recall.
No, that's okay. Just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because sometimes those things go hand in hand. Occasionally, they can. Of course, after a certain point in time, you were making sure to sleep somewhere else if you could, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, no joke. It felt like I remember thinking like it was just an expensive closet, because I would always sleep over at Lauren's house, because I didn't like being there, and it was just sort of like one of those things. So yeah.
I mean, part of me, even because I've always been like, oh, I don't have a slew of experiences and it would be cool to have more, but up to a point, of course.
Yeah.
There's the no list, that I'm sure that we all have. But, do you ever go, gosh, I mean, if I had a Ouija board or something on hand, maybe I could have talked to it or found out more. I mean, those things can be very nefarious, and it's an area of contention for a lot of people. But has that ever crossed your mind? Like, oh, well, maybe I could have found out more just by dabbling in kind of these other things.
Like at the time?
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, just looking back, I mean, I know at the time you weren't trying to contact anything, but maybe looking back on it.
No, I mean, I think looking back on it, it was sort of like something like I had never, or I could say like I didn't want to see it again. I didn't want to have any kind of experience like that. So I don't think that I would have, and even now, like I wouldn't want to try to contact anything like that, or would have like wanted to like, oh, maybe I can kind of see what this thing's about or what it wants. I mean, like I didn't get a good feeling from it. You know what I mean? Like it felt like it want. I mean, I know it sounds so weird, but like it wanted me to see it. It was not trying to, oh, I'm not here, or whatever. It was, I'm here.
Was there anything specifically around that time and you'd only been there, I think you said a couple of months at that point, but you were
Yeah.
there totally a year. Was there anything going on around that time that was, maybe an outside influence on your psyche or your emotional state? I mean, I know that the apartment itself had an effect on you, but was there anything else going on in your life at the time? And not to get too personal, of course, but I'm just saying.
Stressful type.
Yeah, anything that might had been affecting you besides the creepy apartment.
Yeah, I mean, so at that time, it was kind of like well, I don't know, this is my life experience, but I feel like a lot of people, like when you're in your early 20s, you're kind of, I don't know, everybody's kind of like trying to figure themselves out, trying to figure life out, if that makes sense. So there was a lot of that going on, and it kind of just feeling like where do I fit in here? Because prior to that, I did a short stint in California after I graduated from college, and then I came back, and then I was up there, and I was just kind of trying to find out where I fit. So there was a lot of that, and like, jobs and stuff like that, kind of, trying to figure out where my career was and that, which I know sounds kind of like, it wouldn't have I don't know, influence, but it was a stressful time. Where am I, that kind of stuff. Also, that girl I was dating was kind of, when you're young, again, you date some people that aren't for you.
She was kind of what, though? Go ahead and finish if you want.
What's that?
You started to say she was kind of, and then you didn't finish your thought about her.
Oh, no, just a lot to handle. We'll just say that. I don't know.
Gotcha.
So there was just kind of a lot of that kind of stuff going on, which is, I don't know, it's just I just kind of chalk that up to being like a young adult where you're figuring things out, you're figuring out what you put up with, what you don't, kind of feeling like whatever.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of, so it was sort of those like formative, sort of younger years of my adulthood, you know what I mean, was at that time. And it just so happened that, when I just happened to live there at that time too.
I say that, but the tenants right after you obviously had something go on. So, it's not like I'm trying to pin it on you. I was just kind of wondering, but obviously there was something just there. It was it was just there because the tenants afterward had the same experience. Heck, maybe if you didn't want to do it, I could. I'm like, I'll mail someone and ask them what's up in the apartment.
Yeah, I'll find that address.
Okay.
And, send it to you. Because I mean, like I said, I mean, I've never experienced anything like that. There's something going on there. It's just
Russell, the building itself, I'm trying to just picture it. The inside I can definitely picture. You painted that very well. Kind of the classic long hallway. The older buildings have that. Not a lot of light, tiny windows. What about, did it have like a common laundry room and, downstairs the mailboxes all along a wall kind of a thing? Or what was the situation there?
I can't recall about the laundry part, but there was so it's like when you would walk up these stone steps. Like, again, this building was probably beautiful at one time. There's 3 of them right where that is, and they were probably all beautiful at one time. But then you'd walk up the steps, and then like there was like this first sort of, when you'd walk in, there was a sort of, I don't know, like a 2 doors. So there was like, that's where all the mailboxes would be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you walk through that, and then there's an apartment on the left and right. Mine was the one on the right, the first one. And then you'd go back, and then there was another apartment on the left, but there wasn't another one on the right where mine was. So, and then like I said, there was these, at one time there were like these, it looked beautiful, like these paintings. So they had painted over them, because I think that maybe like nowadays people probably complained, or maybe the owners of the building were like, well, we don't want these topless mermaids or whatever. It was like 3-dimensional in the wall, but then they have, these frames within the wall, and they were like, I mean, they had to be hand painted. Because I had a friend that lived in the building next to me, and theirs was still painted. It wasn't one color, like they didn't just paint all over it. Theirs was actually still painted, like the flesh color, the blue of the water, the shells, all that stuff. But the the breasts were like painted over with just a paint swatch. So it was sort of, but then but also like the elevator, which is odd. I mean, but it had like one of those, it would open up, but then it had, they're like almost like that fence, like that grate kind of thing.
Oh, that's real old school. I like that.
Yeah, so you'd have to open that one and get in, and then it was old. It there were these solid buttons that you have to click in.
You were probably taking your life in your hands, or at least most of your afternoon if you got in that thing, right? Just to see if the thing would work.
Yeah, for sure. Like my friends that live next door, they lived on the third floor, I think. So you would have to take the elevator up, and it was small, like no joke. It was probably, I bet you probably like 3 people could probably get in there standing. Like that, it was little, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then the outside it was all stone, you know, big slabs of like, I don't know, sand. Well, I don't know about sandstone, but like,
that's what I miss about Ohio, though, because we don't have that here in Las Vegas. It's a lot of stucco and things like that, right? Not a lot of stone out here unless it's a custom building or a custom home. That's something I really miss about Ohio, was a lot of that. Yeah. The buildings, especially the older ones, are completely stone. Which, you know, a lot of times people say that things, limestone or whatever kind of stone, can hold energy a lot better than other conduits, right?
Yeah, you know what? I know I've heard that, and I've never put that together with that building. Like when I send you the address and you see the building, you're like, oh my God, okay. You know what I mean? It's just these 3 big stone buildings. I don't know.
Now, those are 3 sister buildings. They're all owned by the same people and the same setup with the apartments?
Oh, yeah, they are, yeah.
And your friend never had any experiences in his place next door?
I'll have to ask her. I'm not sure.
Did she hear about your experience?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Huh.
So maybe she did. I don't know. I'll have to ask her about that. Because their building was really nice. I know this sounds, the inside of their apartment, because I'd known them for a couple of years, was really nice. Mine, it needed a lot of work. Like I know I did a lot of work inside that thing. So I don't know if it was like my building was a little bit more run down than theirs. I'll get back to her. I can let you know, but like I'll ask her about that if they ever experience.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Just touch base with her, and then honestly, if you can find the address, I'll send him. I'll shoot him a letter, and I'll do the exact same thing you did. I'll just say, here's my email address, and if you felt like getting in contact, I talked to a gentleman that lived in your place, and just to go fishing. I like to go fishing, so it's not often that you can get kind of a personal address just to see what's what.
Yeah,
you know, can't hurt anything.
Yeah. You have to let me know, too.
I will. I will. And in fact, I mean, let's just say in a perfect exciting world of ITF that they got back to me and said, oh, yeah, we have stuff going on. We'd love to talk to you. I'll just bring you right back on so that, you know, you can hear the whole thing as I do. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And see, the stuff in the home, no, that's not cool. It's not cool.
No.
They need to behave.
No.
But at least you did see it just the once. I think probably what really wore you down was the way the place made you feel.
Absolutely, it did. I mean, it was just it just sort of sucked the goodness out, I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. It's probably a good thing that you weren't into Ouija boards or any of the tarot cards or any of the divining little tools that you can have, which can exacerbate a situation depending on who you talk to. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, that's still something I don't even kind of mess with. Like I actually found a Ouija board at a thrift store and I had it and it was unopened and I was like, I had it for probably like a year or two. No, I need to get rid of this thing. Like it's sort of like weirded me out.
You got rid of it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I saw one that I used to have many years ago, and with all these moves, I've lost so many things. And it's funny, until you think about something, you don't even realize it's even gone. This wasn't really that kind of a thing, but I hadn't thought about it in a while. But Kitsy Duncan posted a picture of one of her Ouija boards, and it was actually the one that's titled the Psychic Circle, which is much more colorful, and it's kind of this little fold-out thing, and it has a perfectly round acrylic planchette. And I'm like, damn, I used to have one of those, and that thing was cool. That one never, ever worked for me, actually, which is very strange. Like the classic Ouija boards, I've gotten those to work, but never the Psychic Circle.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we had one when I was a kid, like little, or whatever. My parents had one, and it was just amongst the board games and stuff like that. But it was like that classic one that you're thinking of, like the box or whatever.
Yeah, the William Fold. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember as a kid. So me and this kid from my neighborhood, we were down in my basement. We were like playing around with it. And and this is probably, who knows if this is anything, but like, we were playing around with it and we were like, we were kids. So we're trying to be like, is Ben Franklin or, whatever, that kind of stuff. But as we were joking around with it and doing that, there was a phone that used to sit on this like little, it was like a corner table, I guess, right there. And it had one of the like spiral cords. You remember that? You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
The rotaries.
Well, maybe. Yeah, exactly. So, but it was sitting on the table. But as we were sitting there, it just like, we didn't see this. We just saw that it popped off and it was just wagging back and forth. Like it had come off the table and was just like swinging back and forth. And I remember we like looked at each other. We both just tore ass upstairs, but.
Well, that is slightly interesting because those are heavy.
Yeah, for sure. It's also too is that, if it's sitting there all day and all night for, however long, like I know that like things can fall off or, whatever. But the likelihood of that thing just coming off the edge of the table enough to where it like fell down and it was just swinging back and forth until it came to a stop. But like, what are the chances of that just happening to happen then at that moment as we're playing around with that thing,
And it was the receiver part, the part that you put to your ear and your mouth, right?
Well, no. So like the receiver was sitting on like the phone, I don't know, the base.
Uh-huh.
And then from base to the phone, it had that wire.
I gotcha. Okay.
Early, but the cord was sitting next to the phone, so it was like sitting up on the table too. So like when it like came off, or whatever, it came off the edge of the table, so it was swinging back, I don't know, 10 feet away from us. Like we were playing on the floor, and then we just looked over when we saw it start swinging back and forth. So it had to come off the table, and it was just like swinging back and forth, and then me and Adam just got
You're like, peace out.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever try light as a feather, stiff as a board?
I don't think so. Or I don't know. I mean, I feel like that was in my like middle school days doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever done it though.
It's a great party game. Yeah. I've done it. It actually works. Should try it again because, it's been a long time. But games like that people go, it's never a game. You don't treat those things like games. You need to be careful, which I totally agree with. But anything can I think, open the world up. Every time you get on and talk about this stuff, it opens things up. So for me, not so much, to be honest with you. I haven't had a whole lot of experiences, at least not as many as some of my other guests. But I think there's a lot of factors that go along with that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's hard to say because I listen to a lot of this stuff. Like I said, I only had the one experience, but I just feel like, I don't know, some people have it more. I think I really believe that it's sort of that kind of stuff, whatever it is. I mean, you name it within the world of the unknown, I guess. I think that kind of stuff, my personal feeling is that it's sort of like happening all the time, all around us, if that makes sense. And it's just people just happen to catch glimpses of it or experience things.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of are like, well, it's paranormal, it's whatever. But I feel like it's more, I don't know, more natural and normal than we kind of think, if that makes sense. So it's happening it's like it's happening, and it's always been happening, and you name it within the spectrum of that stuff. So it's sort of like there's something to it. So I don't think that it's abnormal, if that makes sense. I just don't think that we understand it. I don't know.
Well, that's why I totally agree. That's why the word paranormal gets a bad rap, I think, because if you really break it down, it's not truly that. I mean, it is strange, the things that can go under that umbrella, but like you said, I think a lot of it's just natural occurrences that they're always there. It's just they're abnormal because we don't see them all the time. Some people see them quite often, but people like you and I are obviously not quite as sensitive to that kind of stuff, and we're not going to see shadows every night or go to a haunted location like Fox Hollow Farm, for instance, like myself, and even have experiences there.
Fox Hollow Farm?
What's that?
Fox Hollow Farm?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Herb Burmeister?
Yep, Herb Baumeister. I got a chance to go there by myself and actually sleep a couple nights down in the old basement by the pool. And I didn't have anything happen to me. But, that being said, that doesn't mean that there's nothing going on there, because plenty of people have had experiences there,
Yeah, I've heard about some really weird things that go on there.
Oh,
In fact, it's funny to say that, because maybe it was like a couple years ago, I had some like PTO days I needed to use up, and I was like, I'm going to drive out there. So from Columbus to, it's like is it Carmel?
Correct.
Like that? Okay. So like, I think it's about 3 hours from Columbus. So I was just like, well, I'm going to drive out there and see what I can see, So I went out there. I didn't experience anything, but I went and I saw it, because I think there's people living in it now, but like I could, you could see it. And there's that path through the back where there's like, I think he was burying bodies back there in that forest and all that kind of stuff. And
some of them are right off the back porch.
Yeah. But they have those fences that go along the outside, like the horse fences or whatever. And I pulled some nail. I was back in there. I shouldn't have been, but whatever. And I pulled some nails out of one of the fences that was like, it wasn't new, it was old, like it was like falling apart. So I was like, this will be like a cool thing to have, you know what I mean? And I actually, at one point, I had some dirt from the yard. I was like, maybe this is bad, like bad juju. I don't want to, But the nails I still have. And I remember when I was driving back, that's the only thing. Like, I've been to a lot of places that are kind of macabre or whatever else, and I've kind of like have little things here and there from that. But that was the only one where I was on the way back, and I was like, oh, this is a little bit weird. I don't know. And I was texting a couple of my friends about it, and they were like, you better sage that shit. And I was like, what do you mean? And at the time, I didn't know what they meant. And I was, so they explained, and then I like stopped at this place, and I was, that sells things like that. And they were like, well, what do you want to stage? I'm like, I have some nails from somewhere that's kind of, I didn't want to like, tell them, but.
You didn't want to tell them you were trespassing?
Right. Yeah. I drove 3 hours, or I drove 6 hours round trip to a serial killer's house and took some nails out of his fence. So yeah.
Yeah, that property is stunning. Absolutely stunning. And Rob and Vicky Graves, who live there now, they're super nice people. So I was so lucky to be able to go do that. But yeah, I didn't have anything happen.
Yeah.
I had, but looking back, and if I had a chance to ever go back there again, I would definitely do maybe a little bit more. Maybe provocation isn't the right word, but something. I would obviously do something different. Whatever I did not work. But like I said, a lot of people have had some really incredible experiences there. In fact, Richard Estep just came out with a book with Rob recently. And that's all about the tie-ins between the murders and then, of course, the paranormal activity that's going on there now. So, yeah. Well, Russell, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your experience. It is those weird one-offs that I really do. I enjoy those stories.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, thanks for having me. It was
Absolutely.
fun.
And yeah, if you could, just no rush, but if you get a chance to track down that address, let me know. Yeah. And I really am going to try to follow up on that and see if throw a fishing line out and see if we can catch something.
Yeah. I'm stoked to see. I really hope you do. I'm excited to see what you find.
I'm like, do I in the from section of on the front of the letter, do I put into the fray, or do I put what do you put on the front to make them, entice to open it? So I'll have to think on that one.
Yeah.
All right, Russell. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm so-and-so. I was given this name by my parents. I've been to such and such a college. I've done these things in my profession. I produce a little biography. Buddha says, forget it. There's nothing. That's some story. That's all gone. That's all past. I want to see the real you are now. Nobody knows who that is, because we don't know ourselves except through listening to our echoes and consulting our memories. But then there's a real you, and that again leads us back to this question: who are you? That is the real you. We shall see how they play with this exam by the koans to get you to come out of your shell and find out who you really are. funeral, you will suddenly become somebody different, living somewhere else. They will say reincarnation means this, that if you sitting here now are really convinced that you're the same person who walked in at the door half an hour ago, you're being reincarnated. If you are liberated, you will understand that you're not. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. There is only the present. That's the only real you that there is. The Zen master Dogen put it in this way. He said, spring does not become the summer. First there is summer, and then there is spring. When you settle down in the train to read your newspaper and so on, you are not the same person who a little while ago left the platform. If you think you are linking your moments up in a chain. And this is what binds you to the wheel of birth and death. But when you know that every moment in which you are is the only moment, this comes into Zen. A master will say to somebody, get up and walk across the room. And he comes back and he says, where are your footprints? They've gone. So where are you? Who are you? When we are asked who we are, we usually give a kind of recitation of a history.